Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning into the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, where, by the way, they have record low temperatures and it is really cold here, but we're going to make the best of it. We're going to get you nice and warm, looking at some great cars and meeting a real nice guy, Gary Matranga. Come on out here, Gary. Can you take that out of there long enough to shake hands? Oh, it's warm. It's a warm hand. Very cold here. What's up with the temperatures?
We're going through something we haven't had this kind of temperature in 15 years.
Yeah, and they tell when you're learning how to be a TV host, they say keep your hands out of your pockets, but I'm going to keep them in there. It's kind of cold. Well, this is a great collection here. You have lots of 32 Fords and a lot of other stuff we're going to look at. What's in the water here in Lake Havasu City? There seems to be an awful lot of car people here.
Well, Havasu's got more hot rods per capita than anywhere in the United States, and like this town here's got over 900 cars. Just on this street here, which is about a block and a half long, there's almost 40 cars.
You can't throw a rock without hitting a hot rod here.
And sometimes you hit 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at some of your cars here. 32 Fords, they're pretty much, that says hot rod. Anything 32 Ford, that is an epitome of a traditional hot rod, and you have one of the rarer ones, one of the Vickies. This is pretty cool. Tell us about this.
Well, this is a 32 Vicky, and I bought this car, I just recently bought it, and I chased this car to buy it for almost 2 years. It was built almost 20 years ago with it had no miles on it at all. A man in Los Angeles built it, had it built, and it sat in the garage. It was built by a couple in Florida that's called the Dana Group, and it was a husband and wife team. And you could buy, they just built turnkey cars like this. They had Jag suspension and Chevrolet motor transmissions in them. And you can get them any color you wanted as long as it was red. And that's the only way you could buy a car, was complete from them.
What was Henry Ford thinking about this? It's a very cool body style, but it's sort of like a long coupe or a short sedan. I wonder what they were going for with that.
Well, this was an elegant car from Ford's, and what's ironic about 32 Fords, they made 14 different body changes in 1 year and brought the V8 out. Only did it for 1 year. The 32 stands all by itself, and as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people, the 32 is the ultimate street rod.
Yeah, they're beautiful cars. And you have a nice Fordor sedan next to it here. Let's take a look at that. Fordor sedan, so kind of almost the opposite of the Vicky. This is pretty neat. Put the family in the back of this. How'd this come into your collection?
I bought this here in town, and it's what I call our lunch car. When we go to lunch, we throw some friends of mine in the back seat and we go to lunch in it. It's a Chevrolet powered, but it has the early Ford transmission rear end in it. Just kind of a traditional hot rod, and it's one of my favorite cars.
Do you play favorites on your running gear? Are you a Chev 350 guy, or what do you like to do?
Well, I got assortment. I have 350s. This car has a 283 in it. I have most of the 32s all have Chevrolets in them, except for one. One has a Viper in it.
Another Victoria here, another Vicky. Pretty good-looking car. This looks a little, where the first one we looked at, the red one, that looked real hot roddy. This one, of course, looks hot roddy, but also looks kind of elegant with the color in the interior.
Well, this is more an elegant car. It's chopped, and I've had this car for a long time. I built this car 10 years ago. And it's just kind of a little bit different because I wanted something a little bit classy, and that's why it's this. It's a combination of this deep purple with the gray leather interior. Makes it kind of an elegant car to match the elegant Victoria.
Do you have when you get up in the morning and you walk down in your collection and what car am I going to drive today? How's that work? How do you decide?
Whatever one's closer to the door,
yeah.
Because they're hard to get in and out of the garages. I built this house and I thought I had enough garage, and I don't have enough garage.
Never enough garage.
Never enough.
Yeah. Well, we keep saying the 32 Fords are the icon or the traditional hot rod. A 32 Ford Roadster in red, that is it.
That's the ultimate, as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people. The ultimate street rod is a 32 Ford steel car, a Roadster, painted red. Mm-hmm. And this car here I bought this car, it was a 57,000 mile original car when I started it, and every piece on this car came with the car when it was from the factory. I built this car's almost 20 years old.
On a typical sunny Arizona day and you're driving this, it must be the best feeling in the world.
Oh, this car here I put probably 50,000 miles on, and I drive it everywhere, and it's so much fun. Not in weather like today, though.
Yeah, that would be a one-way ride probably. Well, let's sneak in the garage where it's 5 degrees warmer and take a look at what you got there.
Okay.
All right, a 1939 Ford Convertible, very, very classy, very pretty car. Tell us about this one.
I just finished this car. I wanted something with a little bit more room, and it's got a rumble seat in it. And these are extremely rare. 39 didn't make a lot of the convertibles, and it's just an elegant car as far as I'm concerned, and it serves the purpose. It's roomy. What makes it nice is you get the best of two worlds. In the summertime, you can put the top down, and if it gets cold, put the top up. And if it gets too hot, put the top up, roll the windows up, turn the air conditioner on.
Yeah, there you go. The running gear on this?
This has got a all Lincoln running gear, late model Lincoln. So, motor, transmission, rear end, both.
We have another 39 here, only this is a Woody.
Yes, this is. I built two cars with the convertible in here, matching cars, and primarily I love wood cars, and with the Fordor here, it's good for the grandkids. I throw the grandkids in the back and we go to the auto show or go to the drive-in and we have a great time. The wood cars are just really like a piece of furniture. And this one here, I just got done having the wood refinished in it.
What kind of maintenance do you have to do on these to keep the wood nice?
They just got to keep in a pretty dry temperature climate, like Havasu is good for them. They need a little bit of humidity in the air.
This fits in the warm and fuzzy category. I would think if you stop off at the local Safeway store or whatever and you have this in the parking lot, you're drawing not only a crowd of car people, but you're drawing all the soccer moms and the baseball kids, and everybody wants to take a close look at this, I would imagine.
Well, and a lot of the older people can relate to the wood cars as far as the surfer days, you know, and like, you'd be surprised how many people say, boy, I had one of them and I used to surf down at LA or, you know, in Hawaii or anything, and that's mainly what these cars, all the kids with the surfers got in the 50s and 60s, used these cars to throw all the surfboards in them.
Right, and they were cheap back then.
Oh, you know, a few years ago you couldn't give these cars away. Now they're very pricey, very, very pricey.
All right. Well, you have another Woody back here. Let's take a look at that. So we have one a little bit older here.
Yeah, this is a 38. It's an all original car, 78,000 mile car that I've just repainted and redid some of the bumpers in it and the upholstery. It's primarily just an all original car.
Why did the Woodies have canvas tops on them rather than metal tops?
Well, the wood inside has a coating over the wood, and then they put the canvas over the top.
So another thing that had the maintenance level on these things real high, and maybe why they went away.
Yes, one of the reasons that they're getting really hard to find and the price has gone up is before, whenever one of the cars were wrecked, there was nobody to repair them. They ended up in a wrecking yard or laying across out in the field, and then they'd be surprised how many wood cars ended up in barns, because a lot of them were used in the farmers and in resorts and stuff like that. When the wood went away, they just parked the car and nobody could fix them. Now there's quite a few people now doing the remanufacturing all the wood and doing them.
Mm-hmm. The running gear on this, what's under the hood?
This is all stock. It's got the 85 horsepower motor and three-speed transmission and everything. It's all stock. It's a 78,000 mile original car.
The styling difference between a 38 and a 39 is really significant. There's a big change.
Well, this is a 38 Deluxe, and it's the back part is almost the same as a 39. It's just the front end, and they upgraded the 39s with a better grill and stuff. They used to call these the ugly ducklings, and nobody wanted them. Yeah. And now they've gotten so hard to find that they're all in demand.
Your other 32 Fords are pretty traditional looking, but this looks like something that could have looked like this in 1962 or 1955, and it looks like it now and still looks great.
Well, I built this car mainly to look like the American Graffiti car. And it was all yellow at one time, and then I just changed the yellow to black to kind of change it up a little bit. But it's a traditional old-style hot rod. It has Chevrolet in it, just like most of all the other cars I have. And it's just a fun car to drive. It's just a full fender. It's not fendered, and high boy, and just like the American Graffiti deal.
I know it has a lot to do with the suspension and the powertrain and all of that, but do you get much significant difference in feeling of driving, say, the Coupe and the Roadster and the Vicky and the sedans? Are you really aware that you're in a different car, or are they all pretty similar?
Most of them are all pretty simple. They got a 4-bar front end with a dropped axle and coilovers in the rear. The red Victoria has all Jag suspension under it, which makes it a lot nicer riding car. This car is the same as basically all the rest of them, and you can tell a little bit on the Coupes and the Victorias. They get a little bit top heavy compared to the Roadster.
Another 32 Ford, very nice one, and a great big trophy that goes along with it. What do we have here?
I built this car in 1989 originally, and it was white, to go to Oakland to win the AMBR car.
The Amber Award,
America's Most Beautiful Roadster. Got beat, took a year off, came back, repainted the car, went back to Oakland, got beat again by the same car.
Uh-oh.
And so I showed it that year, and then I parked it. It's been parked ever since. The trophy over there is from Blackie's show at Fresno. It was Best of Show. I showed it one year, and every show we went, we got Best of Show.
Blackie G and his show is an invite-only show. It's considered by an awful lot of people in the car community. If you get invited to Blackie's show, you have really arrived. So you not only got invited to Blackie's show, you won Blackie's show.
Yes.
That's a pretty big deal. The car show scene, it's such a great door opener just to connect with other people, just to have enjoying somebody else's company. You have this in common, and then the stories start, and you share this information, and everybody's laughing before you know it. It's the great equalizer, I think, these cars.
Well, the car community is a bunch of real neat people.
They're the best.
And I mean, I've been in all kinds of different organizations, and I always come back to the car people, and I grew up that way, and I've got a lot of real good friends, made a lot of good friends, and long-lasting friends, and just something that you just can't replace.
Yeah, and if you show up in your car that's won some huge award and it's famous and it's been in every magazine, and you park next to the guy with the sort of average 52 Chev, you're going to be buddies, and you're going to appreciate each other's car, and it's going to be really great.
Well, I've learned over the years, there's no different levels. We're all the same, and whether it's a $1 million car or a $500 car, we're all got the same thing in common, is that automobile.
And with that attitude, that means that I could probably bring my '58 Rambler down from Seattle, and you'd probably trade me for any car here, right?
Yeah, just about. I don't know if I'd have to pay you anything to go.
No, maybe a couple grand. Well,
maybe. Yeah. We'll work out something.
I'll be good to you.
Yeah.
Okay. This looks like a very fast car. What do we have here?
Well, this started life as a 41 Willys, and before the car was built, we built a clay model and put it in a wind tunnel to make sure that we could go 200 miles an hour. This, as far as I'm concerned, is the ultimate street rod. It's a street legal. It's licensed, and it has air conditioning and stereo and the whole thing, but it's capable of running 200. It's got an all-tube chassis. Part of the body's been carbon fiber, fiberglass. It has, if you can see in the back, it has a wing, has parachutes on it. It is capable of running 200. I have never raced it, don't have any intention on racing it. I built it just for a street rod.
This must really blow people's mind when they see this on the street.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. They just don't know what to think. It is a little bit noisy, and it's pretty much radical. I don't think I've ever seen any car that's quite this radical.
Have you had any run-ins with, or just second looks from Johnny Law when you're going along?
Oh yeah, I've had, in fact, I've been stopped with a car once, and mainly and we hear this story all the time. The guy says, he got out of the car, and I said, what'd I do wrong? He says, nothing. He says, I just never have seen anything like this. And he said, I wanted to take a look at it. So I had to show him everything, the motor and everything, and it was fine.
Part of this car is carbon fiber. Carbon fiber has been around for a while, but it's showing up on lots of cars. What made the decision to use carbon fiber in this?
Well, the strength and light. The back wheel, tail, the wing is done, part of the front end is done in carbon fiber. And like the nose down here is designed for down pressure, and part of that is done in carbon fiber. We grafted carbon fiber with fiberglass throughout the whole car.
And running gear on this?
This has got a late model 426 Keith Black motor in it. Came out of a fuel hydro that I used to drive.
Huh. Gary, another 32 Ford, a very nice one, and something very unique about this one. You've got a Viper V10 in here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a real unique car. It's been chopped and the roof's been filled and the body's been channeled, and it has a V10 Viper motor transmission in it. And it has all of the controls out of a Viper and everything.
Is this a just screaming, howling fast machine with that motor in it?
Yeah, you can, at 65, 70 miles an hour down the freeway, you can just stand on the gas and just light the back tires with no trouble whatsoever. It's just a real fun, real traditional, old-style hot rod.
How about the weight on the motor? Is there a difference, much of a difference?
A lot of difference, but the motor's set back in this car quite a ways, which doesn't give me a lot of leg room. But the weight transfer and proportion is pretty good in it, pretty good.
Behind us, we have your garage here, where you're actually turning the wrenches here, and you've got the hoist, you've got the world's biggest toolbox. You're the real deal. You got all kinds of serious machinery in there.
Well, I do all my own work, and that's part of the fun of it. Is I build these cars. I buy. There's a couple projects in here right now that I'm working on. One's a 34 Cabriolet, one's a 32 station wagon, and this is where it all starts.
Gary, you have a lot of motorcycles in the building here and in your home and the garage, and up there we have something that looks like a week ago it had 3 inches of dust on it, and you just found it. What is it, and what's the story behind it?
I found that in Auburn, California in the garage, and it's been in the garage since 1951. That's a 1921 Harley with a sidecar, survivor bike. That's exactly how I got it, and I'm not gonna, the bike is just great the way it is.
And so somebody's grandpa parked that in the garage somewhere and forgot about it, and it had things piled around it forever, or what? How did it?
Well, it belonged to the people's son, and he went off into service, which we've heard this story before, but this is what it was. And he got killed in the service, and they just parked in the garage. And then they were old, and they were moving, and I happened to be in the neighborhood when they were getting ready to move, and I bought the motorcycle.
So you literally stumbled over this bike. Another old one here. Lots of old bikes in the building. What do we have here?
It's a 1915 Indian twin with a sidecar, been restored, and it runs. I've driven it. I put dogs in the sidecar, and we've gone down the road, and it's a handful. It's all original. Been restored.
The handlebars look like they're a bit of a challenge on this. Looks like they end up behind you rather than in front of you almost.
They're a handful to ride that way, because I'm used to riding the motorbikes with out in front, and these are like this, and it's real hard to maneuver the motorcycle. These guys that rode these things for daily transportation, What I always say is they were men with men, and the women loved them.
And they probably rode in temperatures like today, and they just loved it.
Oh no, yeah, they rode like, this was these old bikes were the method of transportation back then.
What do we have here?
This bike here is a military bike. Harley and Indian both. This is a Harley. Harley built a lot of bikes that were used in the Second World War, and this was one of them. Originally, it didn't have the leather interior. It had they used these bikes for carrying different parts and guns and stuff. And I bought this bike and restored it.
Well, looks pretty neat. You had a couple more here, and this looks like a hot rod to me, maybe just because of the pipes. Is it an Excalibur, or what is that?
This is an
Excelsior.
Excelsior,
Yeah.
and it's what they call a board track racer. And no brakes. They rode these on the board tracks back in the teens and up into the late 20s. And I've never had enough nerve to ride one on track. I have 3 of them. They're not restored. They're in the process of being restored. And on the other side is a 1913 Harley that's been restored.
Wow. And then farther than that is a real early two-wheeler.
Yeah, that's an old bicycle, Schwinn bicycle, and they call them the bone crushers, and I could see why, because if you fall off of that, you're going to break something.
Yeah, so Schwinn went that far back.
Yes, yeah.
All right, this motorcycle, this Harley, is no patina here. This is a restoration. Tell us about this.
Fully restored, 1909 Harley. Single cylinder. They made, I think, at production there were 382 of them made, and in existence I think there's about probably 30 or 40 of them. This is a real rare motorcycle.
At what time did Harley Davidsons become one of the standards of, or become as popular or as well known as they are?
Well, they went up and down. They started out, these were, as I said before, one of the most noted modes of transportation, and Henry Ford brought the car in, and then the motorcycle kind of went down, and then the motorcycle came back up, and then we went through all the Hell's Angels and the rough guys, and now it's I would say that when AMF sold it back to the employees is when Harley really came into it. It's really owned.
This is a Thor. I've never heard of a Thor.
1908. Thor was only in business about maybe 4 or 5 years. Made real limited amount of motorcycles. This is a 3-time national champion bike. I showed it. It's won the national championship in this division 3 times in a row. It's fully restored. It runs, as of all the other bikes do. Most of the motorcycles resembled each other. The just difference, they had different little front end and had different combinations on the motors and the transmissions, but basically they grew out of the bicycle era, and they're just overgrown bicycles for a while till they got into the probably the 30s when the motorcycles start getting bigger and bigger. And there was probably in the late teens, early teens, there was maybe 40, 50, 60 different bike manufacturers that only lasted a few years, and Thor was one of them.
Indians and Harleys are all over your house here. You got another Indian here. What do we have?
This is a 1916 twin. It's also a national winner. This was built by a friend of my dad's that they went to school together, and he had this bike.
You mentioned that these all run. When you're driving one of these, does it feel like, man, this is really crude and really basic, or are they sophisticated enough that once you kind of get them in gear and get rolling, they're feeling pretty good?
No, they're rude.
They're rude and crude.
They're rude and crude.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not comfortable. Out of all of them, none of the older bikes are comfortable.
Gary, thank you very much for the invitation.
Thanks for coming, Lance.
And nice collection. I'm going to, thanks for the use of this. And if the weather ever warms up again in Arizona, I'll drive it back and give it back to you. Until then, I'm going to just go ahead and keep it.
Well, you'll need it because it's got a nice heater in it right now. And then when the weather does clear up, you just turn the air conditioner and bring it back.
Okay, well, I've got the heater going full blast. So thanks, Gary.
Have a nice trip.
Bye-bye.